Well, welcome to our concluding episode of Cocktail Party Economic Conversations. We're going to tie up some loose ends, and I'm going to do what I did the first episode is I'm going to hand over the reins to Steph, who's going to take over interviewing us. Go ahead, Steph.
Great. Thanks, Evie. So I'm really happy to be back here. I hope you all enjoyed all of the different alumni speaking to their expertise. But you might notice an unfamiliar face that wasn't here on the first introductory episode. So I'd like to introduce Joshua. He's actually been this summer co op student who's been supporting faculty members in this very quick transition for all of them to try and get their courses ready for online for all of you this fall. And so we can't thank Josh enough. He's made this a lot easier for everybody involved. And so a virtual applause for what program are you in, Josh?
I'm in a Bachelor of Commerce. I'm in the public management specialization, soon to be changed to government economics and management.
Great. Well, thank you. And please feel free to chime in if you feel any of these questions relate to you and your involvement in creating these podcasts. So I'm just going to start it out by what was it like to film in different locations? So working together yet remotely.
Well, I'm going to start by saying when you're recording on Zoom, it got a little tricky, and Rick, who really cares about sound, you were the first to say, let's incorporate Zencaster, right? Yeah. So Zencaster is a separate program. So we go to that so that we're recording sound on our own computers, but visually Zoom is happening for the video. And the problem with that is because we're counting on the internet, and there were lots of times when internet really made things slow. It was we started to learn that we needed to record earlier in the day rather than later in the day, because later in the day became very risky in terms of you know having stable pictures that weren't pixelating on us.
Quality, yeah.
All the kids are playing Call of Duty around 4:30. So
Anyway,
Yeah.
Josh, you should do your little intro you told all our guests.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part of it for me was not being in the same place. People would see my face kind of looking at my computer, and I'd say, just 1 second. And I'd have to introduce myself because they'd be ready for Professor Adame and Rick. And then there's just this random student on the call. And I'd be like, hi, I'm Josh. I'm pulling the production strings. I kind of came up with a line that I repeated for every single podcast. But I think not being in the same location, I found it just a little more nerve wracking. And I think maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the infamous lost video cast, our first one, which was the big mistake. But that upped the pressure on me a little bit, not being all together, and not having to figure out on my own how to make backups and just be like effective in the role, because I'm here to support Rick and Professor Adame and the guests. And so making sure that I was fulfilling my job and we weren't losing podcasts and recordings.
You might as well tell your story.
Oh, you want me to tell? Okay, so I'll
go
tell the story really quickly. The first episode, that introductory episode that you watched at the beginning, that was actually our second take. So the first one I took, I recorded it on Zoom, and I thought, oh, it's going to be really nice. And then I went to go open the recording on the cloud, because Zoom saves it to a cloud. And it was just my face for about 5 seconds, and then it went black because I turned off my camera, and it was a black screen for 25 minutes. So I had the audio, but I didn't have the visual. So then I started. I got on the phone with Zoom, and then I was chatting with them back and forth. And I said, please, please, please tell me you got to have it somewhere. It's got to be in some kind of server in Arizona. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't do anything. So then I had to write this long email to Professor Adame. I'm so sorry. I lost it. Forgive me. Please don't fire me.
You know what? That's such a great, just experience for you to have. Now you have, you know, you made a mistake, but you were able to rectify it. And it wasn't a big deal. We were just able to refilm it. And at the end of the day, I think that that's what co-op is all about, right? Like learning how to
Exactly.
grow and develop those skills that challenged your, you know, that would have been really hard to admit that you made a mistake, but good for you. It's been a
But
pleasure.
there was some lost material. Great stuff.
It
All the
was
best
great
stuff was
stuff.
in that one episode. So
Well, it
it's
was with
lost
you,
forever.
Steph, right? So you actually, it was kind of interesting because we were able to say, well, at least we didn't lose it with an outside alumni. It was a
Yeah.
person who works at the university. And so I was really glad we started with you because we could kind of work out a lot of the kinks. Because a lot of the people we had speaking on this show were very busy people. And I don't think they would have understood asking to retape or no, I can't use the word tape, record what we were
Mhm.
doing. So that was you were very gracious too to say no problem, I can do it again, and we did.
Well, there's lots of also challenges working from all different locations. It's like it takes a long time to set it all up and prepare, and we got to start in advance and stuff like that. And then when you're doing this, we're not actually editing them. We never edited them much, right? So like I almost just sneezed right now because I got allergy season. So I've got my thing. So if I sneeze, I'm just gonna mute and I'll sneeze. I'm just
Actually,
gonna
show your screen because it's really funny.
Oh yeah, so okay, so I have a green screen here behind me because behind here is an unmade bed that I go lie down when I get tired in the afternoon. So there's a green screen, so if you like my arm, look at that. So look at that, and I can also change the background. I'll just show you this right now. Let me just do this. I'm gonna
It
go
So
to
it
was a
always
really
looks like
Careful,
he's
good
in
Mike.
his
show.
living
Great
room having these
song.
conversations.
look at that. See,
Nice.
look. Change the screen. So I have an Elgato. It's actually for gamers. Green screen and different equipment here. We have a boom arm and a Yeti microphone, and Evie's got some good equipment too. So yeah,
Yeah, so that was the one thing. I'm very not tech savvy, like terrible. And so when I realized I was going to go online, I had this idea that I wanted to do these podcasts because I thought it would just make, economics not quite so kill me now. It's just like boring, boring, boring. And I thought this might make people realize economics is kind of pertinent for real life. But I contacted Rick and said, okay, what do I need to buy? So he sent me a list. So a laptop, a Logi webcam, whatever this is,
Logitech. Sorry,
Logitech. And then I have, this is the best. I have theirs without the light. So some of the episodes I had this light shining on me that was like a lamp, and then I bought this. And it made
That's
such
very nice.
isn't that cool? And so
Yes.
I basically have like I have a recording studio. So you can see when I go back and forth, the sound is really, so Rick was always going, stay near your mic, check your Zencaster, make sure you got the right mic on. And he just gave me the list and I went and bought it all. I didn't even question. Okay. All right. And so I had a
But now
huge
you're set up because none of us know what the future of education holds. Does anyone have any predictions of what it may or may not look like?
I think winter is going to be online. I don't see us. I think macro, just like micro, will be online. So
Mhm.
we're looking at recording a second set of called Dinner Party Economics. But
Mhm.
Josh will be in school, so he is
Shucks.
not a co-op student this fall.
hmm
Very
yeah.
disappointing. Yeah. Well, and it's if you liked the podcast, then great. But if you didn't, hold on because there's probably 12 or 13 more coming in macro.
Right.
Well, I was talking with an alumni this morning, actually, and he works at Shopify, and he was saying how they made an announcement that they're going completely office free, and they want to be the leader in the future, and they don't see office space as a way of the future. And so I think
Mhm.
that we're going to see a lot of disruption across a lot of different industries, education included, as we're experiencing it right now together, preparing for the fall semester. But one thing that sticks out to me is, I mean, I met my husband in first year. I met some best friends in that first year experience. And so trying to get to know people at the level that you can when you're living with them and eating together and all of the things that you can do. Um, I just really hope that the first years are able to connect and really start to develop those deep relationships that can really carry them through the rest of their life.
Yeah, I don't see university in the. I mean, once we get a vaccine, we're going to be back on campus. I mean, I think I'm going to change how I teach micro for sure, but I don't think we're going to a virtual university where people, because university is about more than just classes. It's about
Hmm.
all those other things, meeting people. We call it assortative mating. You know, you meet people who are like you at university. A lot of people meet their spouse, their partner at university. So
Hmm.
you can't, you know, it's going to be very
Yeah.
difficult to
Or
not.
lifelong friends too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
lifelong friends like Martin actually met you and our other friend Norm and another friend Brenda while they were at the University of Waterloo. So I think you can't discount proximity. We're not going to go to a university without proximity. Um,
Hmm.
but I do think, I mean, I'm retiring in about 6 years. I don't see myself standing in front of a class of 600 the way I used to. I think now
Right.
that these lectures are video, I'll be trying to get smaller groups and trying to see people in a smaller context. Um, I just don't see going back to a big lecture hall.
Like stand-up training was already being sort of weaned off. We were being weaned off. Like I do e-learning that's my business, e-learning development for my
Hmm.
company. And we deal with corporate clients, and they were already, getting rid of classroom training and turning it into online learning. So at least part of it, like, because there's so much of online learning that can be done, upfront, right? All the basic stuff. And then when you really need like in-person training, you can just focus on the most important or people's questions, right? So there's no reason why every time you have to repeat the same, basic, recall information. It's higher level learning, I think, that you want in-person environment, right? Synthesis and just, you know, thinking through questions and things like that. So it's already been happening, but I think a lot of companies now are realizing that the cost savings, right? You can just you can develop it once if it's on demand and then just keep reusing it. Like so.
And if I
Yeah,
might
go ahead.
segue, sorry, Professor Adame,
No
if I
problem.
might segue, I worked with quite a few professors this semester, this co-op semester, and I was really impressed by. There was Professor Adame and a few other professors who said, "Okay, like we really have to make these courses interesting." And I think, especially you, Professor Adame, took it to the next level and said, "Okay, I want to make sure that people are they know me." And I think you kind of are a myth and a legend
Oh,
on
no.
campus.
Oh,
Every single
you
university
get
student,
extra points there, Joshua.
I know.
every
Are
single
you taking one of
BCom
her
student.
course this fall, Josh?
Oh, it's intro.
No, she's just my program advisor. So maybe a reference letter later. But I will say this: I think that um, she really did want to impart some of the University of Guelph culture on on these students, and I don't think you get the same first year experience if you didn't see Professor Adame or have some of her good and corny jokes and just kind of the whole you have to have the whole experience, and you can't be a BCom student at Guelph without taking a class from Professor Adame. It just doesn't work.
I have to tell you a funny story. Both my sons came to Guelph, and my older one actually took management economics and finance, the same major I'm the academic advisor for. And when he came out of high school to university, he said to me, I don't think I'm going to tell people that we're related. I said, no problem. You don't have to tell people we're related. You can be free to, you know, fly your wings. So then he, uh, he actually registered for another prof's class, but he would attend mine because partly you don't want conflict of interest. So he would go to my lectures, but he was technically in another guy's class. Anyway, he came up to the front podium and said, "Hi, Mom," and started chatting with me in front of all these students. I said, "I thought you weren't going to tell people that we're related." He goes, "Oh, Mom, I thought you'd be a liability, but you're actually an asset."
Wow,
Good
you
for
get
her
the
then.
concept.
I said, "Why do you say that?" He goes, "Oh, Mom, everyone knows who you are. Everybody." He said, "You're kind of like a rock star." I went, "Oh, I had no clue because, you know, until your kids come to school, they're like moles in the organization telling you what people really think, and I had no idea what people really thought. So that was, and then at one point I figured out at any one point, the campus has like 24,000 people. I probably have taught a quarter of them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So it's a lot of people.
yeah. I get why you don't live in Guelph.
I do. I know. I don't want
all
anyone
depends on
spitting in my food.
it all depends on which rock star type he's referring to. Is it like
Oh,
Megadeth or somebody more?
Oh, yeah, the old ones.
I'd love to hear everyone's opinions on if they felt like there were themes throughout all of the different people and topics of conversation, or if they were fairly, exclusive of each other.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I was struck by all our guests is just they were such nice people. Like, they were nice people who
Mhm,
wanted good. And so we spent a lot of time talking about how economics is about human beings and about values. I mean, I thought the word values came up quite a bit. What do you think?
mhm,
Hmm.
Rick, did you find that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And also just that how much the human emotions play in this economics, like you just don't realize how many forces there are at play in economics, right? And people's preferences, they change, like especially now with COVID. It's just an interesting time to be doing this discussion with these people because they all have unique challenges, and it's interesting. Yeah. So yeah, what people value during a given time determines some of the market, right?
And I
yeah,
might have a unique perspective on it because I was watching all of them,
mhm,
and I was just editing a few of them, and I noticed that like that our podcast videocast, it didn't exist in a vacuum. So things that were on the news, they kind of made their way into the videocast. We talked a lot about the effects of COVID-19 on economics, but we also talked about Black Lives Matter, and other movements that were happening as we were taping this podcast. And we always tried to strike a balance. Oh, I'm not supposed to say taping, recording this podcast. And we tried to strike a balance from being too topical, not being too topical, and at the same time still being relevant. So somebody could watch this in 2 or 3 years and still get the gist of it,
mhm.
or even 5 years outside of COVID time and still find it relevant. But at the same time, it's relevant to students who will be watching it in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes, for sure. And I think, Evie, what you said about good, I have the opportunity to work with all of our external partners, whether it be corporations and or alumni of Guelph and specifically the Lang Business School. And our motto is educating the leaders of tomorrow for a sustainable world using business as a force for good. And so thinking about all of those different impacts that we can have. And I feel that same way whenever I talk with our alumni. It's just they're kind, loving, wonderful people. And I think that that type of person is innately drawn to come to Guelph as well because
Hmm.
we have faculty members like yourself who go above and beyond to put in that extra effort. They want students to really learn and understand and develop those skills. And even in these really interesting times that we're living in, doing it so that they're getting everything out of it that they should be. So, does anyone have anything else that they'd like to add in terms of the experience of creating podcasts together?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, just back to our guests. I just think it's really interesting what a wide variety of people and different fields that people have gone into through economics. Like just everything
Mm,
from like I don't know, like compliance officers who are or competition officers, right? To people into I don't know what other fields. There's
Well,
so many.
selling cookies and,
Yeah, cookies, which we like.
then, we had Evan Siddall, who's the CEO for Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. He was
mhm,
probably our most, I didn't know him, I never taught him. The other people they had actually taken courses from me, so,
mhm.
um that, but he's just slightly younger than me, like about 5 years. So I never taught him, but he was like gracious too, like very. It didn't matter. They had, we had people who were doing work in, the online platform for for people to get housing, get plumbers or
Oh yeah.
carpenters,
Yep.
home stars, I think it's called. And then we had other people who just started a new business, right? So in basically public relations kind of
Yeah.
work. So yeah, they were just people all over the place
And I
in terms
think
of the career.
I was really surprised at how high Guelph graduates had made it. I mean, we had the CEO and president of Canadian Mortgage, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, but we also had people who had worked in New York or were working in New York at big marketing firms. So I think sometimes we don't sell Guelph enough. We don't say like, look at where our graduates have gone, and look at where you can go. So I think it was good to have some. We had people from all different sectors, but also people who were pretty high up in whatever sector they were in, and so it was really interesting to see that.
I also was trying to get people who weren't necessarily close to retirement so that students who are 18, 19 can kind of feel like they could identify with some of these people. Um, yeah, so I would say the guests were very interesting and very tied to the conversation in the chapter. So
Mhm, mhm.
we were able to chat about those ideas.
And
But one
interesting
thing that
jobs too.
happened,
Evaluator. We had evaluator. We had a demand manager. Things that you would have never thought were jobs or occupations. So it was interesting to see that as well.
the other thing that happened in our conversation is we would close out the conversation and the guests would normally leave, and then the three of us would stay to chat, but we would always chat about food because both of these guys are Italian. And so we would chat about food. We'd actually just stay and kind of have that denouement where we're just
Yeah.
chatting about the talk and how good and every time we'd get off and go, wow, that was great. That was great. That was great. We were always very happy with the talk. And then we'd
Yeah.
revert to food. We'd talk. And Josh's mom would sometimes come in.
Aw.
Mom around.
She would always make. She is around. Yeah. Do you want her to pop in? She just said "ah" from the other room, but she would always kind of listen in, and then she'd make a comment. Oh, it was good. It was good. Oh, that was interesting. Oh, and then she didn't know what either of you looked like, and then I had to show her one of the videos because she goes, "What does Professor Adame and what does Rick look like?" And I pulled them up, and she goes, "Oh," she goes, "Yeah, okay, okay." Yeah, I didn't imagine them looking like that. I don't know what she imagined you looking
Not
like.
so good looking. And
Hilarious.
she didn't realize how good looking we were. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
she
saying?
said, "Wow, what a stunning, stunning podcast."
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
She's a good mom.
we would have some, yeah.
Yes.
So these guys would chat a little bit in Italian, not Italian, in
No, I
Italian
don't speak Italian.
food talk.
Yes,
Italian
yes,
So
food,
about
yeah.
coffee and became so we would actually not always leave the conversation after the recording. It felt a
Mhm.
little bit not like work. I don't know. Did
Right.
it feel like work to you guys?
No, I mean it's always a bit nerve wracking when you're talking to some of these people because they're busy people. You don't want to waste their time. You don't want anything to go wrong, right? So I'm sure we all, you know, held our breath. I mean, we did have one that had to get postponed to the next day because of technical difficulties beyond our control. So you do feel like, oh, so you're kind of stressed before, and then after you got to recover. I have to go back on, lie down on my bed behind my green screen.
I think you need to take the green screen down so we can see the bed that you're out.
Not me.
Yeah,
If
I'm
Rick
in
thought he
a
was
spare
stressed,
room. So the it I think working from home has really made a change in, what we think is a normal background, and you start to realize you're revealing your personal life when you're on
Mhm.
um a video call. So,
I'm
yeah.
sure we were talking about like, well, supply and demand. Like the equipment for this thing must have skyrocket, right? Like mics, cameras. Think you couldn't even get webcams for the longest time. So those people have made a ton of money, right?
Mhm.
Like these mics and So it's an interesting too, right? Everybody must be, working on that. It's probably really a good idea too. If you're doing this a lot, like start investing in because it makes a difference in how you come across, how clear you are. I mean, it looks like we all have pretty good equipment right now. So yeah,
I
it's
found
interesting.
that that was the one thing. Rick and I had pretty good equipment, and so sometimes our guests might be dark, like they're,
Mm,
'cause of the way the lighting was hitting their faces. Other times their sound might not work.
right.
Um, with Sometimes we had people who were using their laptop for their video and their
Mhm.
iPad for their sound because
Oh,
they
wow.
couldn't get it to work properly.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and
so it got
Zencaster
kind of
doesn't work with
complicated.
iPads. Yeah.
What did you say, Rick?
Oh, Zencaster didn't. We found that Zencaster didn't work with iPads at this point, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that meant
so
we had to
technology
say,
can
"Oh,
make
we're gonna do it in
things
Zoom."
smoother, more
Yeah.
efficient, more professional for sure, if you can get your hands on it these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I felt the weight of it because I thought, oh no, if this person didn't read the thing that Zencaster only works on Zoom on a compute, or it only works on Chrome on a computer, we're
Mm,
gonna have to do it on Zoom. So
right.
I always had that moment of I'm like, I'd wait, I'd see are they gonna sign on to Zencaster, and when I'd see the little health check pass on Zencaster, I thought, good, okay, everything's okay,
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
we don't have another lost podcast.
And
Yeah.
we learned to use our calendar invites, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, Rick
After
was
many,
on
many.
me. I really did not want to use. I'm an old man, so I just keep. I'm an old man trapped in a 21-year-old's body, but I keep a little count like a written calendar. Uh, and so for me, I thought, oh no, Rick wants me to send out these calendar invites, and I had like a bunch of troubleshooting with that, but we figured it out. By the fourth or fifth podcast, we figured it out.
Actually, I think it was by the 8th or 9th.
Yeah. Because
It it was
I was
really
the
funny.
yeah.
We've kind of noticed that we always assume young people are the tech savvy people, but, Rick is the most tech savvy person I know, and he's more tech savvy than his sons. Like, so I think that there's a bit of ageism here where younger
Yeah.
people don't always realize that, our generation has said, "Okay." I mean, I learned so much. My learning curve went I became much better, like, really.
You did.
I now have a
You
dock
grew as a
camera
person.
for where I'm lecturing. Let me show you my dock camera. It's so pretty. It's a
Oh,
pretty, pretty one.
nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
because you do a
so
lot of
I can
craft
now
and
recording.
drawings and
I became much better. I mean,
Mhm.
I learned because there was no choice. And I think that that's one of the things that we found out in this
Yeah.
COVID is that lots of institutions like banks, we had a banker say that things that they were trying to get people to move over to, what we're going to take 10 years to get everyone to comply, happened in 3 months.
Yeah.
right.
So
Mhm.
online banking, I was talking with one guy at TD the other day, and they said that they had 10,000 people. For every 10,000 people that were doing online banking in terms of transactions, it jumped to 90 through COVID for that kind of 9 times
Yeah.
up. And COVID forced that. And I would say, lots of universities have been trying to talk about flip classrooms and blah, 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 blah. And most of us resist because it just seemed very scary and a lot of work. But then now we have no choice. If we're going
Yeah.
to do this, we have to do it. And I don't want to do a terrible job. So you start to get better at
Yeah.
technology.
It's like sink or swim, right? It really is.
Oh, yeah.
You sometimes you get pushed in and you just got to go, right, and do it and make mistakes too. I think that's what it sometimes organizations are like this. I found in my experience. They want to plan everything and then they want to implement it like very sequentially, right? And then sometimes they through all this planning, they realize, "Oh, this doesn't work." And they've wasted all this time planning. Sometimes you just have to go and iterate and go back and test and just move like that, right? And that's really important, right? Just to sort of get going, make mistakes, and then learn. So
I think one of the
Mhm.
things that COVID provided, though, was a cover that if we made mistakes and it was a disaster, people were more forgiving, you
Yes,
know,
that's true.
I
because
agree with that.
we could just say, hey, we were trying, we just couldn't get this to work. We don't know why,
Mhm.
not working.
And if the screen ever freezes and you're watching one of these podcasts and people's faces aren't moving at the same time that they're speaking for a few seconds, just remember it's COVID. Be forgiving.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like everyone took a lot away from this, from Josh and his co-op, a lot of learning there, Evie transitioning her course online, and Rick hearing from all these different sectors and people in really varied roles coming out of the economics platform. So with that, we hope that all of you learned a lot and that you have taken away a better understanding of how economics works. And good luck with your semester. And with that, we will say goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.